the escalation in the Middle East.
Oh, I thought we were going to get the crazy out of the way and talk about Hegseth, but yeah,
Yeah,
let's talk
because
about the Middle East.
that's related to what I'm going to get back to the question, to the main question. But
Right.
looking at what's going on in the Middle East and the meeting, because many people are, when I'm talking with the people here in Brazil, people outside of Brazil, they feel that there is a connection between what has happened in the United States with Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump talking with generals, admirals, and what's going on vis-a-vis the conflict in Ukraine and in the Middle East. How do you connect these? Is that related to those foreign policy issues for the United States, or is something domestic to what's going on inside the United States?
Well, of course they're connected. I mean, it's the same people, right? I mean, you've got a narcissist in charge of this country who is unhinged. He is unmoored in the sense that he has no principles other than those a narcissist or a megalomaniac would choose to embrace. And in that sense, he's a posturing nihilist, right? I mean, so that's who's leading this country. And then you look at who his advisors are. And it is men and women who have made it into positions of power because they're really good sycophants. They're incredibly loyal. They are really great spokespeople. They will go to the ends of the earth to trumpet Donald Trump's name, or they are men and women who have risen to power because they are con men and criminals, just like their boss, or they are men and women who have done well for themselves because they've known how to climb the ladder in a rigged and corrupt, economic, media, and political ecosystem that we have here. So you look at the people who are directing these policies and put that on top of the inertia that comes from an empire, let alone a declining, failing, dying empire like the U.S. And so we shouldn't be surprised at the type of decisions and policies we see coming about. Even like this spectacle on Monday with Donald Trump forcing Netanyahu to telephone the Emir of Qatar and apologize, and then releasing photos of it. I mean, this is all childish, immature, bullying behavior that the rest of the world looks at. And as much as people want to see Netanyahu get put in his place, he's not getting put in his place for any other reason than the fact that the Qataris gave the president of the United States a $500 million airplane. I mean, so all of this, again, is unmoored, it's unhinged, it's principleless. And so the questions that we have about why are these things happening in the Middle East? Why are these things happening in Asia? Why are these things happening in Europe, South America, Africa? We just bombed Somalia today for the 80th, or yesterday for the 80th time this year, right? The same day that Trump is going on about how in his speech yesterday in Quantico, why are we involved in places like Somalia? He has bombed Somalia 80 times just since taking office this year. I mean, so again, it's unhinged, it's unmoored, it's principleless, it's posturing nihilism. So what we're proceeding through here, what we're witnessing, what we're having to endure is, a game that's being played by madmen and fools.
Matt, do you think that Donald Trump, together with Pete Hegseth, or the message, the main message in this meeting, in your opinion, to the generals and admiral, what was that? What were
It was,
they trying to do, to say?
yeah. I mean, the generals were a prop. There certainly was an element of get in line. These are our new standards. A lot of chest beating, a lot of macho nonsense by Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump. But they were essentially a prop. This was a photo op. This was because this wasn't anything that had to happen. I think that's been discussed over and over. But the fact that they live streamed it, these generals and admirals and senior enlisted leaders couldn't have watched it, just like you and I can. I mean, so the show of it all, of course, is so important for these people, right? For Hegseth, whose prime interest is optics. Hegseth's prime interest is image, right? And that's when you look at all the orders that he put forward yesterday, some of which are incredibly dangerous, such as restructuring the inspector general. right? I mean, but just that's part of a larger plan that they have to make it their military, make it a military that looks like them, believes in what they believe, and will be entirely obedient. This administration and the people in the national security side, in the homeland security side too, the whole thing. I shouldn't differentiate any of them. They have no fear about chasing out minorities and women from the U.S. military, even though they make up, I think, about 35 or 40%, maybe more, of the American military, because they would rather have a pure American military, a military that is white, patriarchal, and Christian, that they believe would be obedient, that fits their vision and their worldview, than having one that is composed of women and minorities and thereby tainted or impure. Or, you can imagine some of the phrases these people use to describe a diverse military. So, you have that aspect of this, but a lot of it too was a continuation of promulgating this administration, this regime's views and their policies. So, you take a look at what occurred yesterday. You had this commander in chief, again, who is explained before, a narcissist, a secretary of war, as we now must call him, who is concerned solely with optics and image. And then you have a theater of hundreds of generals, admirals, sergeant majors, sergeants major, command master chiefs, etc., in there, who sit silently and obediently as the president says that the next necessary battlefields for the U.S. military will be American cities. And then it's been silent since this president over, as we've seen the U.S. military be used to extrajudicially kill people, be used to assist in the detention, the brutalization, the arrest of American citizens and residents, and legal residents, I should say, without saying a word about it. Allowing this to go on without saying a word. And so when the president yesterday says to these assembled officers and senior enlisted, if anyone has a problem with it, get up and leave. No one gets up and leave. And I don't think many of us are surprised about that. And so this idea that's percolating on the blogs and the podcasts of liberal America, that somehow the United States military is going to do the right thing and stand up to Trump. Well, maybe that sure sounds like a good book or a good television series, but show me the evidence why you believe that. Because we witnessed yesterday, we witnessed hundreds of these men and women who sat there and listened to a president who has already utilized the U.S. military to carry out illegal actions, criminal, brutal, disturbing actions against the American people and legal residents, and who have done nothing to oppose that. These are the men and women who have sat by, and as the president of the United States has fired their peers, fired generals and admirals for no other reason than reasons of politics, race, or sex. They have sat by and watched it all. So this is where the real danger is. And these men and women in power, yesterday it was Trump and Hegseth, but you can extend this to Noam and Bondi, right? You can extend this to Rubio and Miller, whoever you want to point to in administration. These are men and women that are sadists. They enjoy power, and they're intoxicated by the idea of either humiliating, controlling, or destroying other people. And so the fact that you have all this, you put it together, and you see where we've gone, and you see what they're threatening to do, what they say they're going to do, including putting forward national security memorandums like the president did the other day, directing that the focus of anti-terror, counter-terror efforts in the United States across the entire line of government, so to include the U.S. military, will be to come after people who speak ill of anything that he likes, to paraphrase it, because the list is, it's if you're considered to be anything, anti-war, anti-capitalist, any kind of anti-American, anti-family values. I mean, the list is quite long of who is now considered to be a terrorist by this government. Well, this is really, these are incredible times that we're in. and they are very serious times.
Matt, how much of what's going on with the case of Venezuela is related to Rubio's obsession
Yeah.
with that part of the world, with Venezuela, Cuba? How much of that comes from the Trump himself?
A lot of it comes from Trump himself and from the people around him and from the national security establishment, the foreign policy elite, the fossil fuel and bank industries. Certainly the idea that Venezuela, which has the largest reserves of oil, and people can poo-poo it and say, well, it's that really dirty, heavy, crude stuff, whatever. I mean, it's the largest reserves. I mean, they'll refine it and make money off of it. I mean, that is all there. Now, Rubio is, to your point, though, Nima, obsessed. He is obsessed with Venezuela. He's obsessed with Cuba. His family comes from the region. His family fled from the dictator, our man in Havana, Batista, right before Castro and his folks took over. So Rubio is the right guy at the right time in the right place to see this effort that's been underway for decades now. I mean, since Chavez came to power. So that was what, 99, 2000? When was that? I mean, that was a while ago. And we've seen successive coup attempts by both Republican and Democratic administration. And again, there's a latent anti-communism in this. There's a latent American cultural, historical, tie to this, right? Oh, communists, so we got to be against it. If you're a good American, you got to be against communism. So there's that easy political pull of it. But I think most of it has to do with the fact that we don't control Venezuela, that their leadership thumbs their nose at us. They don't salute and get in line like many in the region do and have done, because we've had a long history, centuries, of getting our way in Latin America, in the Western Hemisphere. I mean, this goes back to the Monroe Doctrine. So this idea of for more than 200 years, we have said, this is our hemisphere, everyone else stays out. And we more or less have controlled it in many ways. That's why we went so crazy when Castro overthrew the dictatorship. I mean, one, it's communist. Two, it was our guy, our industries, our rich people, our ruling class lost a lot when Castro took power and the communists took power there. But a lot of it also too was just the revulsion, the affront, the shame the Americans felt for losing control of their hemisphere. And so I think there's a lot of that. I mean, so there's other things in this that makes Washington D.C. salivate, not just the Republicans, but also the Democrats over Venezuela. And Rubio has positioned himself, and this is what he wanted. I think there's a lot of questions this past year, as we've seen a guy like Steve Witkoff take over a lot of the duties that the Secretary of State we would assume to be conducting. And I think it's always been this way, that Rubio just wants Central and South America. Like, he'll be involved as he needs to be, and he certainly is a neocon, so he is concerned about Russia and China, Iran, other things. He's a Zionist, but I mean, his main thing is what he stays awake at night. I'm sure what he reads about, the videos he watches, pertain to Latin America, to Central America, South America. So he has maneuvered himself to be at the right place at the right time in an administration that also, too, the larger picture of this, as we see, I believe, Nima, this perhaps understanding of Trump now that he's not going to get Russia, and others in Washington, D.C., that pulling Russia away from China is not going to happen. Duh. Right. But that, okay, maybe we don't need Russia. Maybe some of their thoughts were Russia's got so much that between their oil and gas, everything that comes out of the ground there, Russia's got it. Maybe we don't need them. Maybe if we should really just, as this multipolar world is taking shape, maybe we should just concentrate on what we can really handle. So we're going to start making deals. We're going to start agreeing with the Europeans. They're going to go our way on Iran. We're going to go their way on Ukraine. We're going to keep those vassal states with us. They're hollow and they're empty and they're pathetic and weak, but we'll keep the Europeans with us because at least it counts for numbers on a numbers on the map or the chessboard or the column or in the column or whatever. But more to the point, if we get Venezuela, And then if we get the rest of South America with all the minerals and metals that are there, well, then we don't need these other parts of the world as much as we might have thought we did. And we can go on moving forward confidently in our own block to take on these other blocks in this, multipolar world.